So this ties into my previous video about the federal response to the affordability issue, housing crisis, whatever you want to call it, that's taking place in Canada right now. So one of the things that in that video that the government was addressing was really from the demand side and slightly from the supply side. So it does mean that they are taking into consideration supply side issues, but also realizing the limitations that the federal government has in addressing a lot of those supply side issues. So maybe they can create some incentives around construction, create some incentives around, persuading municipalities to deal with the NIMBY, the not in my backyard issue that's causing a lot of the constraints in development. But RBC, largest bank in Canada, they've also issued a report, basically just addressing some of the issues that they see with the market, and a lot of it I 100% agree with. If a lot, I mean all of it. I think right now where we're at is a fairly straightforward situation. We're dealing with a lot of supply constraints, and that's primarily it. Everybody acknowledges that there is a significant deficit in the amount of homes that we have. I've seen estimates of around 1 million home shortage, 1 million homes, right? And that's not going to get addressed in a short time. But in that, but with that being the case, we still have, I think 2021, we're going to have 401,000 new immigrants into the country. These are people that want to own homes, most likely, right? You don't come here to just, I've never, a lot of the folks that I've met, they didn't come here just to rent. A lot of them, they want to own a home. They want to have their families. They want to live a wonderful life in Canada, as they should be able to, right? The only question I have is, what are we doing to make sure that when they arrive, they're arriving in optimal conditions so that we're not putting them in a more difficult situation than needs to be? And also, what are we doing domestically for the people that are already here, so we are not creating an additional burden for them when it comes to their goals and their dreams? And I think what has happened is we've just neglected it, right? I mean, we haven't really heard about anything to do with housing until the last maybe year and a bit, right? But it's been an issue for the last 10 years, right? It's been an issue for quite a while, but it's only being addressed more of late. And I think that is the main issue, is the fact that we are only addressing this now when we're in the midst of, I guess, the crisis, right? Like, people are having significant issues buying a home. That hasn't really been the case for a majority of Canadian history. I mean, that's just not, it just really hasn't been the case, right? Usually, it's some multiple of your income, you can, be able to buy a home. A lot of the times, you had people that could buy a home off of one income, right? You can manage your household off of one income. Maybe that is just something that's completely gone. But why can't that be a goal, is my question. Like, why do we just have to say goodbye to that? It's not a foregone conclusion that this is the new normal. It's not a foregone conclusion that this is the way that it just has to be. Why? Like, I just want to question it. A lot of these folks that they say that they're experts, they say that they know how the economy is supposed to be run. They know how they can't make a prediction. They're incapable of making accurate predictions. They're incapable of assessing situations correctly. Yet I'm supposed to believe that they know that it's a foregone conclusion that we will never see a situation in which we can have one household, or a household be run off of one income again. Why is that? Why is that the case? Unless everything is designed in such a way that it should never be the case, that should never return, maybe that's the case, right? And that's not, hopefully that doesn't sound like a conspiracy theory or anything like that. I'm not even getting into any of that. It's just a question of curiosity, right? That's really it. Like, what is the goal? What is the purpose of all of our policies? Where are we going as a country, right? I mean, housing is one part of that. And as someone that works in this field, in the real estate field, I want everybody to be able to be comfortably able to afford their home and live a wonderful life. I don't want them to have to fear about buying a home, being able to feel the pressure of being able to afford a home, to deal with a lot of these issues that can really destroy your life. Yeah, really, we just want people to be able to live good lives, right? And I think that's ultimately should be the goal. So the question then becomes, how do we get there? How do we get back to people living good lives? And I think this RBC report kind of helps lead the way to that. So housing affordability in Canada reached its worst level in more than 3 decades during Q3 2021, according to RBC Economics. By the end of the third quarter, RBC's aggregate measure of Canadian home ownership went up by 2% to reach a 31-year high of 47.5% of median household income. The increase built up on the 2.7% upswing during Q2, which ended up completely reversing improvements at the start of the pandemic. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So this development was mainly impelled by soaring prices and higher mortgage rates, a trend that might be exacerbated by the impending hikes on the Bank of Canada's interest rates, according to RBC senior economist Robert Hogue. And I think that's one of the tricky things as well, because we are in an historically low interest rate environment. So we don't really know what's going to happen when we start pushing interest rates up. And I think, well, we do know. we do know it's going to cause a crash. The question is, how severe will it be? There will be a contraction, I should say, because increase the interest rates, you're pulling out money. The money supply goes down, right? It gets put into more secure, guaranteed investments. And that's just what it is, right? So money gets pulled out, and so the question is, or will people be bidding up these homes? Because I mean, one of the things with real estate is it's looked at as an alternative investment, especially like in stable countries. So if they can get a good return on a home, or a good return on a GIC or something like that, where you can get stable return, high return, and it's basically guaranteed, they don't need to be dumping money into real estate. That's one consideration, right? I'm not saying that alone would cause the rates to go, cause the market to drop precipitously. But I think what would happen is, also too, is a deterrent. People don't want to spend. It becomes less affordable, so what people are able to bid up becomes lower. The ceiling gets lowered essentially, and people that already have homes, the prices, the monthly payment goes up, and then the question becomes, do they want to hold on to that mortgage because the payments have gone up substantially compared to what they were initially paying, and maybe they want to buy something that's lower cost, get a new mortgage, a lower mortgage, but maybe their house is now underwater because the value has gone down relative to the amount of mortgage that they have on the property. So there's a lot of factors at play. But it really does depend on to what degree an interest rate hike would have an impact. How much of a hike, the speed at which the hikes occur, all of those things, they all taken into consideration. But the thing is, all we have to work with are models, right? And and those are as good as they are. The only time a model works is if you actually implement the policy, and then either it goes towards the plan, it goes according to plan, or it doesn't. And I mean, if it goes according to plan, then at least you have an idea of where you are. If it doesn't go according to plan, then you're just making it up as you go. So anyways, even just a small increase in the 5-year fixed mortgage rate already accounted for the 2% increase in RBC's aggregate measure for Canada in the third quarter. That is interesting. So intense market heat that began amid the gradual economic reopening earlier this year is another crucial factor in the current situation, Hoke said. Homebuyer demand is supercharged and inventories are near historical lows in virtually every market, creating intense competition between buyers and pressured prices up, pressured prices up, he noted. Developments in the past year have generally amplified pre-pandemic affordability divergences across Canada. More specifically, they put Toronto and other southern Ontario markets in even less enviable affordability positions relative to the rest of the country, whereas the relative picture generally improved elsewhere, especially in Atlantic Canada and the prairies. Very interesting. I saw like, when you engage in the comment sections in some YouTube channels, somebody was saying that affordability is completely just gone across the country, and that is not entirely true, depending on your income, of course. But somebody that's making about a household making around 120,000, they're still able to afford a home. Of course, you have to have the down payment, minimum down payment, 5%, 10% down. It just depends on where you're living, right? And now that's, I think, the toughest thing, because it may require a change in job. Being able to work remotely is so important these days. So that way you can still make a reasonable income. Your income can be, what you would be making in maybe Toronto, GTA. But if you take that income and you move outside of the GTA, you go to, even outside of Ontario, you go to Manitoba, you go to Saskatchewan. Regina's nice, from what I've heard. Or you go to Alberta. You're taking those relatively high incomes and you're taking them to across the country. You're able to get a home that you would like, bedrooms, detached, all that nice stuff. But if you're so focused, if you're going to be GTA focused, then yeah, you're going to need to have that income to buy a house there, and you're going to need to have the down payment. But that's if you are focused on buying in the GTA. You're going to have to expand your horizons a little bit if the affordability is an issue, and that's just the reality. Nobody can do anything about that at this time. So what they have boiled it down to, though, is that the need for more supply has never been greater. This became clearly evident in the past year, with bidding wars springing up in places that have really or never seen them before, and intensifying in places that are more accustomed to them, Hoke said. And until demand and supply return to closer balance, prices will continue to rise. That's it. It really isn't more complicated than that. Prices are a function of supply and demand, as we know it, right? That's what we know. Prices are a function of supply and demand. So the question is, what's limiting supply? If you're seeing prices rise, question is, what are supply constraints, and what's increasing the demand? What's allowing demand to increase? Low interest rates, immigration. What are the things that housing programs, right? All of these things they're all factors that go into the demand side. Supply side constraints, the whole NIMBY, not in my backyard, right? People not being allowed to develop, environmental factors around development. All of these things, they contribute to supply side constraints. So it's just a question of, how do we eliminate constraints within reason, and how do we maybe soften demand within reason, right? So, also on top of immigration, was it buying multiple homes for investors, as well as be it foreign or domestic investors, right? I don't know how much of an issue that actually is. But because I mean, I haven't looked at the numbers. I'm not saying it's not an issue. I'm not saying it is one. I just don't know. So, but it is something that the federal government is looking at right now as a way of kind of softening demand. So, anyways, so that's everything from me today. Hopefully, it was slightly informative. I mean, I want to know your opinion though. I'm very curious what people think is happening in this market. It feels kind of run away. I think a lot of people feel like it has run away from them, and they feel kind of like out of control. They're just kind of like watching it go higher and higher every year, and they don't really have any sort of remedy for it. So yeah, let me know what you think, and feel free to like, share, and subscribe if it is worth it. And I will see you later.